Oh, all right. Cool. Is the audio working? Yes. Yes. Oh, no. Hello? Wait. Yes. Oh my god. This new setup is kind of silly. Oh my god. I thought I had it figured out beforehand, but I did not. Okay. Okay. Is it good? It does seem to be. Oh, great. Well, I love doing things unplanned. That's the main purpose of this whole thing streaming. Um, all right. John Keats. I don't know. I'm not going to introduce John Keats. It doesn't matter. The thing I love about John Keats specifically is the way everything that he writes feels like it's a constant run-on sentence. Like it just keeps going and going and going and going and going, and it just rolls. And like the way like the lines, the individual lines blur between each other, and like it just has this momentum that keeps going. And I was reading a couple of shorter John Keats poems earlier today after I saw that tweet that was talking about how like, oh, you should you should, instead of going on social media, you should like download a screenshot of a poem to your phone and like memorize that poem and do that, and like work on memorizing it every time you find yourself wanting to um like every time you find yourself wanting to go on social media. And I was looking at some Keats poems because I really like Keats. Um, and I was just, oh, just feeling so fantastic, like saying it out loud. Like I was, looking at some poems from some other poets, and they were like, "Oh, these are interesting. They're good." But there's something about reading Keats out loud that it makes me smile. It fills me with joy. I just start like, you just start rolling with it. And I was thinking about the idea of going on stream and reading a Keats poem, and that was longer, because you just lose yourself in it. You just lose yourself in it because it just drags you along and on this wonderful thing. And it's just so mellifluous. It's like the definition of mellifluous, I think. Um and uh what else do I want to say? Uh oh, and I guess I was also just thinking about, because like it was strengthening this other little vibration in my head, because I'm learning. Uh a Chopin etude, like, or a Chopin prelude rather, like it's like one of very simple piece for Chopin at least. Um, and I was realizing that just like it just feel there's just this structural affinity of like explosion and kind of just like constant movement that between there and like the way Chopin uses like chromaticism where like you think you're going one place and like you think you have a handle on where you are and then suddenly you're somewhere else and it's just like moving and this like surprise as it just pulls you along and anyway, and I was enjoying that so much, I just thought that I would read Endymion on stream. Uh, and it starts off with a very famous part. Um, and just tire my voice out a bit, because that's what life's about. And also, anyway, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Therefore, on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. Spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble natures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways, made for our searching, yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits, such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep, and such are daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make against the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with a sprinkling of fair musk-rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead. All lovely tales that we have heard or read, an endless fountain of immortal drink, pouring unto us from the heavens' brink. Hi, Zagrium. Thanks for coming to hang out. We're reading poetry for no reason other than it seemed like a good use of my day. Nor do we merely feel these essences for one short hour. No, even as the trees that whisper round a temple become soon dear as the temple's self, so does the moon, the passion posy, glories infinite, haunt us till they become a cheering light unto our souls, and bound to us so fast that, whether there be shine or gloom o'ercast, they always must with us be. Oh, they always must be with us, or we die. Therefore, 'tis with full happiness that I will trace the story of Endymion. The very music of the name has gone into my being, and each pleasant scene is growing fresh before me as the green of our own valleys. So I will begin. Now, while I cannot hear the city's din, now, while the early butters are just new, and run in mazes of the youngest hue about old forests, while the willow trails its delicate amber, and the dairy pails bring home increase of milk, and as the year grows lush and juicy stalks, I'll smoothly steer my little boat for many quiet hours with streams that deepen freshly into bowers. Many and many a verse I hope to write before the daisies, vermeil rimmed and white, hide in deep herbage. And ere yet the bees hum about globes of clover and sweet peas, I must be near the middle of my story. Oh, may no wintry season bare and hoary see it half finished, but let autumn bold, with universal tinge of sober gold, be all about me when I make an end. And now, at once adventuresome, I send my herald thought into a wilderness. There let its trumpet blow, and quickly dress my uncertain path with green, that I may speed easily onward through flowers and weed. Upon the sides of Latmos was outspread a mighty forest, for the moist earth fed so plenteously all weed-hidden roots into o'erhanging boughs and precious fruits, and it had gloomy shades sequestered deep where no man went. And if from shepherd's keep a lamb strayed afar A lamb strayed far adown in those inmost glens. Never again saw he the happy pens, whither his brethren, bleating with content, over the hills at every nightfall went. Among the shepherds, 'twas believed ever that not one fleecy lamb which thus did sever from the white flock, but passed unworried by angry wolf or pard with prying head until it came to some unfooted plains, where the herds of Pan, great his gains who thus one lamb did lose. Paths there were many, winding through palmy fern and rushes fenny and ivy banks, all leading pleasantly to a wide lawn, whence one could only see streams thronging all around where oh my god, streams thronging all around between the swell of turf and slanting branches. Who could tell the freshness of the space of heaven above, edged round with dark treetops, through which a dove would often beat its wings, and often, too, a little cloud would move across the blue. Uh, Zagreum, poetry. Um, so my interest in poetry, I guess, really comes from like in high school. I wouldn't. I have much. I'm more interested in philosophy than poetry, or at the very least, I know much more about philosophy than poetry at this point. Um, I in high school, one of the best teachers I ever had in any of the schooling ever was um my junior year of high school. I took Brit Lit. The British literature was the class, and the teacher of the class was a Benedictine monk named Brother Bernard. I believe he's a priest now, um, and he he taught Brit Lit as almost like um, it was very like historically grounded, like peoples are making poetry in response to material conditions and like trying to like in dialogue with this and in transcendence with this in trying to transcend over it and like influenced by like um just historical circumstances. Though he made it so fascinating, and we did a very like large um uh what's the word, like unit on romanticism, on British romanticism, reading like Keats and Wordsworth and Shelley, and Shelley. We read Frankenstein, and we read a bunch of poems, and the um I I just remember being very being very taken by the way he taught the class, and then British Romanticism in particular, um, really just touched me in a very profound way that that stuck with me even years later. Um, and I think as it's been on my mind a little bit lately because William Blake is an influence on a lot of like kind of artists and writers that are of particular interest to me now. The way that he like his sort of kind of relationship to humanism and Christianity and the arts is very unique, and he kind of has this take on reason that's sort of interesting. Um, my favorite philosopher, I don't know if I have a favorite, so to speak. I guess like because it is probably Hyla Hunt Hendricks, who is a contemporary philosopher and also a musician and artist who's working. Her system of transcendental Kabbalah is um, highly influential on my thinking, and structures the way I kind of go about a lot of my philosophical inquiry. Um, but like I guess the person like I sort of got into philosophy also because of a good high school teacher, but then I got out of it for a while because I for various reasons. But what got me back into philosophy was I had a close friend who actually we were dating for a while, who was very into philosophy, and she was really smart. She's one of the smartest people I've ever known, and she introduced me to yes, that this is it's part of the reason I do it. It confuses people. On my on my YouTube channel where I post like VODs, I have like a couple of videos where I was reading Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation, and res- one of the comments I got was like, "This seems like a weird psyop, but I'm here for it." And I think that's I like that it doesn't make sense. I like that it doesn't make sense. It's part of the point of me doing it in this way. Um, but I got into back into philosophy because of like listening to Zizek lectures, and then like I read Anti-Oedipus by Deleuze and Guattari, um and that like woke me up. The Anti-Oedipus is an insane book. And it's lost a little bit of its punch today because of the way that advancements in technology and culture have made it certain aspects of it less radical, but it's still an insane book to actually sit down and read. It screws with your head in a really good way. Let me get some water and then I'll keep going. Yeah. Are you into philosophy? Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Your name seemed familiar. Um, I don't remember what stream you hopped in for though. Upon the sides of Latmos was outspread a mighty forest, for the moist earth fed so plenteously all weed-hidden roots into o'erhanging boughs and precious fruits, and it had gloomy shades sequestered deep, where no man went. And if from shepherd's keep a lamb strayed far adown those inmost glens, never again saw he the happy pens whither his brethren, bleeding with content. Wait, wait, I already read this one. So fun to read. Full in the middle of this pleasantness. Start. A little cloud would move across the blue. Full in the middle of this pleasantness, there stood a marble altar with a tress of flowers budded newly, and the dew had taken fairy fantasies to strew daisies upon the sacred sward last eve. And so the dawned light in pomp receive, for 'twas the morn, Apollo's upward fire made every eastern cloud a silvery pyre of brightness so unsullied that therein a melancholy spirit might well win oblivion, and melt out his essence fine into the winds. Rain scented eglantine gave temperate sweets to that well wooing sun. That lark was lost in him, cold springs had run to warm their chilliest bubbles in the grass. Man's voice was on the mountains, and the mass of nature's lives and wonders pulsed tenfold to feel this sunrise in its glories old. Now, while the silent workings of the dawn were busiest, into that self same lawn, all suddenly with joyful cries, there sped a troop of little children garlanded, who gathering round the altar seemed to pry earnestly round as wishing to espy some folk of holiday. Nor had they waited for many moments ere their ears were sated with a faint breath of music, which even then filled out its voice and died away again. Within a little space again it gave its airy swellings with a gentle wave to light hung leaves and smoothest echoes breaking through copse clad valleys ere their death overtaking the surgy murmurs of the lonely sea. And now, as deep into the wood as we might mark a lynx's eye, there glittered light, fair faces in a rush of garments white, plainer and plainer showing, till at last into the widest alley they all passed, making directly for the woodland altar, O kindly muse, let not my weak tongue falter in telling of this goodly company, of their old piety, of their glee, but let a portion of ethereal dew fall on my head, and I presently unmew my soul, that I may dare in wayfaring to stammer where old Chaucer used to sing. Leading the way, young damsels danced along, bearing the burden of a shepherd's song, each having a white wicker o'erbrimmed with April's tender younglings. Next, well trimmed, a crowd of shepherds with as sunburnt looks as may be read in Arcadian books, such as sat listening round Apollo's pipe, when the great deity, for earth too ripe, let his divinity o'erflowing die in music through the vales of Thessaly. Some idly trailed their sheep hooks on the ground, and some kept up a shrilly mellow sound, with ebon-tipped flutes close after these, now coming from beneath the forest trees, a venerable priest full soberly, begirt with ministering looks. Alway his eye steadfast upon the matted turf he kept, and after him his sacred vestment swept. From his right hand there swung a vase, milk white, of mingled wine, outsparkling generous light. And in his left he held a basket full of all sweet herbs that searching eye could cull. Wild thyme and valleyed lilies wither still, then Leda's love and cresses from the rill. His aged head, crowned with breechen wreath, seemed like a pall of ivy in the teeth of winter hoar. Then came another crowd of shepherds, lifting in due time aloud their share of the ditty. After them appeared, up followed by a multitude that reared their voices to the crowds, a fair wrought car, easily rolling so as scarce to mar the freedom of three steeds of dapple brown, who stood therein did seem of great renown among the throng. His youth was fully blown, showing like Ganymede to his manhood grown, and for those simple times his garments were a chieftain's king's. Beneath his breast, half bare, was hung a silver bugle, and between his nervy knees there lay a boar spear keen. A smile was on his countenance. He seemed to common lookers on like one who dreamed of idleness in groves Elysian. But there were some who feelingly could scan a lurking trouble in his nether lip, and see that oftentimes the reins would slip through his forgotten hands. Then they would sigh and think of yellow leaves, of owlet's cry, of logs piled solemnly. Ah, well a day! Why should our young Endymion pine away? Soon the assembly, in a circle ranged, stood silent round the shrine. Each look was changed to sudden veneration. Women meek beckoned their sons to silence, while each cheek of virgin bloom paled gently for slight fear. Endymion, too, without a forest peer, stood wan and pale, and with an odd face among his brothers in the mountain chase. In midst of all, the venerable priest eyed them with joy from greatest to least, and, after lifting up his aged hands, thus spake he: Men of Latmos, shepherd bands, whose care it is to guard 1,000 flocks, whether descended from beneath the rocks that overtop your mountains, whether come from valleys where the pipe is never dumb, or from your swelling downs, where sweet air stirs bew harebells lightly, and where the prickly firs bud lavish gold, or ye, whose precious charge nibble their full at ocean's very marge, whose mellow reeds are touched with sounds forlorn by the dim echoes of Triton's horn, mothers and wives who day by day prepare the scrip with needlements for mountain air, and all ye gentle girls who foster up udderless lambs, and in a little cup will put choice honey for a favored youth. Yea, every one attend, for in good truth our vows are wanting to our great god Pan. Are not are lowing heifers sleeker than night-swollen mushrooms? Are not our wide plains speckled with countless fleeces? Have not rains greened o'er April's lap? No howling sad sickens our fearful ewes, and we have had great bounty from Endymion our lord. The earth is glad, the merry lark has poured, his earthly song against breezy sky that spreads so clear o'er our solemnity. Staying hydrated. Thus ending, on the shrine he heaped a spire of teeming sweets, enkindling sacred fire. Anon he stained the thick and spongy sod with wine, in honor of the shepherd god. Now while the earth was drinking it, and while bay leaves were crackling in the fragrant pile, and gummy frankincense was sparkling bright, neath smothering parsley in a hazy light, spread grayly eastward, thus a chorus sang. O thou, whose mighty palace roof doth hang from jagged trunks and overshadoweth earthly whispers, glooms, the birth, life, death of unseen flowers and heavy peacefulness, who loves to see the hamadryads dress their ruffled locks where meeting hazels darken, and through solemn hours doth sit and hearken the dreary melody of bedded reeds in desolate places where dank moisture breeds the pipy hemlock to strange overgrowth, bethinking thee how melancholy loth thou wast to lose fair strengths. Do thou now, by thy love's milky brow, by all the trembling mazes that she ran, hear us, great Pan, O thou, for whose soul-soothing quiet turtles passion their voices cooingly 'mong myrtles, what time thou wanderest at eventide through sunny meadows that outskirt the side of thine enmossin realms, O thou to whom broad-leaved fig trees even now foredoom the ripened fruitage, yellow-girded bees thou golden honeycombs, our village lees the fairest blossomed beans and poppied corn, the the chucking linnet, its 5 young unborn, to sing for thee, low creeping strawberries, their summer coolness, plent up butterflies, their freckling wings, yea, the fresh budding year, all its completions. Be quickly near, by every wind that nods the mountain pine, O forester divine, thou, to whom every fawn and satyr flies for willing service, whether to surprise the squatted hare while in half-sleeping fit, or upward ragged precipices flit to save poor lambskins from the eagle's maw, or by mysterious enticement draw bewildered shepherds to their path again, or to tread breathless round the frothy main and gather up all fancifulest shells for thee to tumble into naiad cells, and, being hidden, laugh at their out-peeping, or to delight thee with fantastic leaping, the while they pelt each other on the crown, with silvery oak apples, and fir cones brown, by all the echoes that about thee ring. Hear us, O satyr king. O hearkener to the loud clapping shears, while ever and anon to his shorn peers a ram goes bleating. Winder of the horn, when snouted wild boars routing tender corn anger our huntsmen, breather round our farms, to keep off mildews and all weather harms. Strange ministrant of undescribed sounds, thou come a-swooning over hollow grounds, and wither drearily on barren moors. Dread opener of the mysterious doors, leading to universal knowledge, see, great son of Dryope, that many are come to play their vows, with leaves about their brows. Be still, the unimaginable lodge for solitary thinkings, such as dodge conception to the very born of heaven, then leave the naked brain. Be still the leaven that, spreading its dull and clodden earth, gives it a touch of ethereal, a new birth. Be still, a symbol of immensity, a firmament reflected in the sea, an element flitting the space between, an unknown, but no more. We humbly screen with uplift hands our forehead, lowly bending, and give out a shout most heaven-rending. Conjure thee to receive our humble paean upon thy Mount Lycaean. Even while they brought the burden to a close, a shout from the whole multitude arose that lingered in the air like dying rolls of abrupt thunder, when Ionian shoals of dolphins bobbed their noses through the brine. Meantime, on shady levels, mossy fine young companies nimbly began dancing, to the swift treble pipe and humming string. Aye, those fair living forms swam heavenly to tunes forgotten out of memory. Fair creatures whose young children's children bred Thermopylae its heroes, not yet dead, but in old marbles ever beautiful, high genitors, unconscious did they cull time's sweet first fruits. They danced to weariness, and then in quiet circles did they pass the hillock turf, and caught the latter end of some strange history potent to send a young mind from its bodily tenement. Or they might watch the quat pitchers, intent on either side, pitying the sad death of Hyanthus. Oh my god, of Hyacinthus, when the cool breath of Zephyr slew him, Zephyr penitent, who now, ere Phoebus mounts the firmament, fondles the flower amid the sobbing rain. The archers, too, upon a wider plain, beside the feathery whistling of the shaft, and the dull twanging bowstring, and the raft, branch down sweeping from a tall ash top, called upon 1,000 thoughts to envelop those who should watch. Perhaps the trembling knee and frantic gape of lowly Niobe, poor lonely Niobe, oh my god, Niobe, God. When her lovely young were dead and gone, and her caressing tongue lay a lost thing upon her paly lip, and very, very deadliness did nip her motherly cheeks. Aroused from this sad mood by one who at a distance loud hallooed, uplifting his strong bow into the air, many might after brighter visions stare, after the Argonauts in blind amaze, tossing about on Neptune's restless ways, until from the horizon's vaulted side there shot a golden splendor far and wide, sprangling those million poutings of the brine with quivering oar. 'Twas even an awful shine from the exaltation of Apollo's bow, a heavenly beacon in their dreary woe, who thus were ripe for high contemplating, might turn their steps towards the sober ring, where sat Endymion and the aged priest, among the shepherds gone and eld, whose looks increased with silvery setting of their mortal star, while they discoursed upon the fragile bar that keeps us from our homes ethereal, and what our duties there to nightly call Vesper, the beauty crest of summer weather. Oh my god, I need to pause. Very long stanza. To summon all the downiest clouds together for the sun's purple couch, to emulate in the ministering the potent rule of fate, with speed of fire-tailed exaltations, to tint her pallid cheek with bloom, who cons sweet posy by moonlight. Besides these, a world of other unguessed offices, anon they wandered by divine converse into Elysium, vying to rehearse each one his own anticipated bliss. One felt heart certain that he could not miss his quick gone love among fair blossomed boughs, where every zephyr sigh pouts and endows her lips with music for the welcoming. Another wished, mid that eternal spring, to meet his rosy child with feathery sails, sweeping eye earnestly through almond vales, who suddenly could stoop through the smooth wind, and with the balmiest leaves his temples bind, and ever after through those regions be his messenger, his little Mercury. Some were athirst in soul to see again their fellow huntsmen o'er the wide champaign in times long past, to sit with them and talk of all the chances in their earthly walk, comparing joyfully their plenteous stores of happiness to when the moors benighted, close they cuddled from the cold, and shard their famished scrips, thus all outtold their fond imaginations, saving him whose eyelids curtained up their jewels dim. Endymion, yet hourly had he striven to hide the cankering venom that had riven his fainting recollections. Now indeed his senses had swooned off. He did not heed the sudden silence, or the whispers low, or the old eyes dissolving at his woe, or anxious calls, or close of trembling palms, or maiden sigh that grief itself embalms. But in the self-same fixed trance he kept, like one who on the earth had never slept. I, even as dead still as a marble man, frozen on that old tale Arabian. Oh my eyeballs. Oh, round 410. It wears you out. Ooh, can I make it? Can I make it all the way through the first part in one stream? Oh, we'll take a little break. The Europeans really loved, they really loved to be obsessed with the classics. Oh, oh, sort of pagan ecstasy of this poem is quite wonderful. Oh, ooh, okay. Who whispers him so pantingly and close? Pina, his sweet sister, of all those his friends the dearest. Hushing sign she made, and breathed a sister's sorrow to persuade, a yielding up, a cradling on her care. Her eloquence did breathe away the curse. She led him, like some midnight spirit nurse of happy changes and emphatic dreams, along a path between two little streams, guarding his forehead with her round elbow from low-grown branches, and his footsteps slow from stumbling over stumps and hillocks small, until they came close to where the streamlets fall, with mingling bubblings and a gentle rush, into a river, clear, brimful, and flush, with crystal mocking of the trees and sky. A little shallop, floating there hard by, pointed its beak over the fringed bank, and soon it lightly dipped, and rose, and sank, and dipped again with a young couple's weight, Pina guiding through the water straight. Peona. Peona guide, probably Peona, because they use Peona guiding through the water straight towards a bowery island opposite, which gaining presently, she steered light into a shady, fresh, and ripply cove, where nested was an ardor overwove by many a summer's silent fingering, to whom I'm losing it. I'm losing it. Oh my god. I wore out so quickly. I didn't expect it. He wore me out. He wore me out. He got me. Um, by many a summer's silent fingering, to whose cool bosom she was used to bring her playmates with their needle brodery and minstrel memories of times gone by. So she was, gently glad to see him laid under her favorite bower's quiet shade, on her own couch, new made of flower leaves, dried carefully on the cooler side of sheaves, when last the sun his autumn tresses shook, and the tanned harvesters rich armfuls took, soon as he quieted to slumbrous rest. But, ere it crept upon him, he had pressed Peona's busy hand against his lips, and still, asleeping, held her fingertips in tender pressure. And as a willow keeps a patient watch over the stream that creeps windingly by it, so the quiet maid held her in peace, so that a whispering blade of grass, a wailful gnat, a bee bustling down in the bluebells, or a wren light rustling among the sere leaves and twigs might all be heard. O magic sleep! O comfortable bird, that broodest o'er the troubled sea of the mind, till it is hushed and smooth. O unconfined restraint, imprisoned liberty, great key to golden places, strange minstrelry, fountains grotesque, new trees, bespangled caves, echoing grottos full of tumbling waves and moonlight. I to all the mazy world of silvery enchantment, who, upfurled beneath thy drowsy wing a triple hour, but renovates and lives. Thus in the bower Endymion was calm to life again. Opening his eyelids with a healthier brain, he said, I feel this thine endeavoring love all through my bosom. Thou art as a dove trembling its closed eyes and sleeked wings about me, and the pearliest dew not brings such morning incense from the field of May, as do those brighter drops that twinkling stray from those kind eyes, that very home and haunt of sisterly affection. Can I want aught else, aught nearer heaven than such tears? Yet dry them up, in bidding hence all fears that any longer I will pass my days alone and sad. No, I will once more raise my voice upon the mountain heights, once more make my horn parley from their foreheads hoar. Again my trooping hounds their tongues shall loll around the breathed boar. Again I'll pull the fair-grown yew tree for a chosen bow, and when the present sun is gliding low, again I'll linger in a sloping mead to hear the speckled thrushes and see feed our idle sheep. So be thou cheered sweet, and if thy lute is here, softly entreat my soul to keep in its resolved course. Thank you, Zagreum. Oh, I enjoy speaking and reading. Here at Peona, in their silver source, shut her pure sorrow drops, with glad exclaim, and took a lute from which their pulsing came a lively prelude, fashioning the way in which her voice should wander. 'Twas a lay more subtle cadenced, more forest wild than Dryope's lone lulling of her child, and nothing since has floated in the air so mournful strange. Surely some influence rare, for still, with Delphic emphasis, she spanned the quick invisible streams, and though she saw Endymion's spirit melt away and thaw before the deep intoxication, but soon she came, with sudden burst, upon her self-possession, swung the lute aside, and earnestly said, Brother, 'tis vain to hide that thou dost know of things mysterious, immortal, starry. Such alone could thus weigh down thy nature. Hast thou sinned in aught offensive to the heavenly powers? Caught a Paphian upon the message sent? Thy dreadful bow against some deer herd bent, sacred to Dian? Happily thou hast seen her naked limbs among the alder green, and that, alas, is death. No, I can trace something more high perplexing in thy face. Endymion looked at her, and pressed her hand, and said, Art thou so pale, who wast so bland and merry in our meadows? How is this? Tell me thine ailment, tell me amiss. Ah, thou hast been unhappy at the change wrought suddenly in me. What indeed more strange, or more complete to overwhelm surmise? Ambition is no sluggard, 'tis no prize that toiling years would put within my grasp, that I have sighed for with so deadly gasp that no man e'er planted for a mortal grove, for a mortal love. Oh my God. So all have set my heavier grief above to these things which happen. Rightly have they done. I, who still saw the horizontal sun heave his broad shoulder o'er the edge of the world, outfacing Lucifer, and then had hauled my spear aloft as signal for the chance. I, who for the very sport of heart would race with my own steed from Araby, pluck down a vulture from his towery perching, frown a lion to growling, loth retire, to lose at once all my toil breathing fire, and thus sink low. But I will, oh, and sink thus low, but I will ease my breast of secret grief, here in this bowery nest. I have a difficulty. My eyes get tired, especially right now because I actually am my computer is right in front of a window, and also I have difficulty reading anything for too long. My eye gets tired unless it's like small text because I've got my left eye is kind of I got a problem with my nerves. I got a nerve palsy in my left eye. Um that makes it hard. It doesn't like moving. Okay. Oh, excuse me. Yeah. This has been enjoyable in the way that I hoped it would be though. It just goes and it just goes and goes and goes and you just lose yourself in it. Oh, it's quite good. Oh. What time is it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, oh, I froze. Whoops. Oh, that's funny. Okay, well, I'll take that as a sign that maybe I should not continue for now. Maybe I will leave it there because my voice and my eyeballs are getting tired because I have not trained up doing this in a bit. Oh, oh, oh. Um. Okay. Well, maybe we will continue. Oh. Okay. I need to get some more water, and then I'll be right back. Oh, I don't have a be right back screen set up for this. I had it in my old setup, but I'm on a new computer and a new setup. Uh, there we go. Oh my god. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, okay, okay. One thing about this poem, the kind of the the famous the famous opening. Whenever I remember the like opening lines, for some reason in my head, it always like instead of uh, its loveliness increases, it will never pass into nothingness. I always remember it as non-being. It will never pass into non-being. And every time I remember it, I'm like, that's not what it says. But I always remember that, and like it always says that in my head instead of nothingness, and then I'm like, no, it's definitely nothingness. I think that's because I read too much philosophy, but I don't. It's just a weird. It's a weird substitution. I don't know why it does that. Okay, let's get comfortable, and we'll get back at it. Cool. All right, we're back. We're back at it. This river does not see the naked sky till it begins to progress silverly around the western border of the wood, whence, from a certain spot, its winding flood seems at the distance like a crescent moon, and in that nook, the very pride of June, had I been used to pass my weary eyes, the rather for the sun unwilling leaves, so dear a picture of its sovereign power, and I could witness his most kingly hour when he doth lighten up the golden reins, and paces leisurely down amber plains his snorting four. Now, when his chariot last its beams against the zodiac lion cast, there blossoms suddenly a magic bed of sacred dittamy and poppies red, at which I wondered greatly, knowing well that but one night had wrought this flowery spell, and sitting down close by, began to muse what it might mean. Perhaps, thought I, Morpheus, in passing here, his owlet pinion shook, or may it be, ere matron night uptook her ebon urn, young Mercury, by stealth, had dipped his rod in it. Such garland wealth came not by common growth. Thus on I thought, until my head was dizzy and distraught. Moreover, through the dancing poppies stole a breeze, most softly lulling to my soul, and shaping visions all about my sight, of colors, wings, and bursts of spangly light, that which became more strange and dim, and then were gulfed in a tumultuous swim, and then I fell asleep. Ah, can I tell the enchantment that afterwards befell? Yet it was but a dream, yet such a dream that never tongue, although it overteem with mellow utterance like a cavern spring, could figure out and to conception bring all I beheld and felt. Methought I lay watching the zenith where the Milky Way among the stars in virgin splendor pours, and traveling my eye until the doors of heaven appeared to open for my flight. I became loath and fearful to alight from such high soaring down a downward glance, so kept me steadfast in that airy trance, spreading imaginary pinions wide, when presently the stars began to glide and fade away before my eager view, at which I sighed that I could not pursue, and dropped my vision to the horizon's verge. And lo, from opening clouds I saw emerge the loveliest moon that ever silvered o'er a shell for Neptune's goblet. She did soar so passionately bright, my dazzled soul commingling with her ardent spears did roll through clear and cloudy, even when she went at last into a dark and vapory tent, whereat, methought, the lidless eye train of planets all were in the blue again. To commune with those orbs, once more I raised my sight upward, but it was quite dazed by a bright something sailing down apace, making me quickly veil my eyes and face. Again I looked, and O ye deities, who from Olympus watch our destinies, whence that completed all form of all completeness, whence came that high perfection of all sweetness? Speak, stubborn earth, and tell me where, oh where, hast thou a symbol of her golden hair? Not oat sheaves drooping in the western sun, not thy soft hand, fair sister. Let me shun such follying before thee. Yet she had, indeed, locks bright enough to make me mad, and they were simply gordoned up and braided, leaving in naked comeliness unshaded her pearl round ears, white neck, and orbed brow, that which blended in, I know not how, with such a paradise of lips and eyes, blush tinted cheeks, half smiles, and fainted sighs, that when I think thereon my spirit clings and plays about its fancy, till the stings of all human neighborhood envenom all. Unto what awful power shall I call? To what high fane? Ah, see her hovering feet, more bluely veined, more soft, more whitely sweet than those of sea-born Venus, when she rose from out her cradle shell. The wind out blows her scarf into a fluttering pavilion. 'Tis blue, and oversprangled with a million of little eyes, as though thou wert to shed over the darkest luscious bluebell bed handfuls of daisies. Endymion, how strange! Dream within dream. She took in an airy rage, and then towards me, like a very maid, came blushing, waning, willing, and afraid, and pressed me by the hand. Ah, 'twas too much! Methought I fainted at the charmed touch, yet held my recollection even as one who drives 3 fathoms where the waters run, gurgling in beds of coral, for anon I felt upmounted in that region where falling stars dart their artillery forth, an eagle struggle with the buffeting north that balances the heavy meteor stone. Felt too, I was not fearful nor alone, but lapped and lulled among the dangerous sky. Soon, as it seemed, we left our journeying high, and straightway into frightful eddies swooped, such as a muster where grey time has scooped, huge dens and caverns in a mountain's side. There hollow sounds aroused me, and I sighed, to faint once more by looking on my bliss. I was distracted. Madly did I kiss the wooing arms which held me, and did give my eyes at once to death. But 'twas to live, to take in draughts of life from the gold fount of kind and passionate looks, to count and count the moments by some greedy help that seemed a second self, that each might be redeemed and plundered of its load of blessedness. Ah, desperate mortal, I even dared to press her very cheek against my crowned lip, and at that moment felt my body dip into a warmer air. A moment more, our feet were soft in flowers. There was store of newest joys upon that Alp. Sometimes a scent of violets and blossoming limes loitered around us, then of honey cells made delicate from all white flower bells. And once, above the edges of our nest, an arch face peeped, an Oread, as I guessed. Why did I dream that sleep overpowered me in midst of all this heaven? Why not see far off the shadows of his pinions dark and stare them from me? But no, like a spark that needs must die, although its little beam reflects upon a diamond, my sweet dream fell to nothing, into stupid sleep, and so it was until a gentle creep, a careful moving caught my waking ears, and up I started. Ah, my sighs, my tears, my clenched hands, for lo, the poppies hung, dew dabbled on their stalks, and weasels sung a heavy ditty, and sullen jay had chidden herald Hesperus away. With leaden looks, the solitary breeze blustered and swept, and its wild self did tease with wayward melancholy, and I thought, mark me, Peona, that sometimes it brought faint fare-thee-wells and sigh-shrilled adieus. Away I wandered. All the pleasant hues of heaven and earth had faded. Deepest shades were deepest dungeons. Heaths and sunny glades were full of pestilent light. Our taintless rills seemed sooty, and o'erspread with upturned gills of dying fish. The vermeil rose had blown in frightful scarlet, and its thorn outgrown let spiked alow. If an innocent bird before my heedless footsteps stirred, and stirred in little journeys, I beheld in it a disguised demon, mission to knit my soul with under darkness, to entice my stumblings down some monstrous precipice. Therefore I eagerly followed, and did curse the disappointment. Time, that aged curse, rocked me to patience. Now, thank gentle heaven, these things with all their comfortings are given to my down sunken hours, and with thee, sweet sister, help to stem the ebbing sea of weary life. Yeah, I'd be pretty messed up if I if I um if I had sex with the moon god and then suddenly I fell asleep. Thus ended he, and both sat silent, for the maid was very loath to answer, feeling well that breathed words would all be lost, unheard, in vain as swords against the unchaste crocodile, or leaps of grasshoppers against the sun. She weeps and wonders, struggles to devise some blame, to put on such a look as would say, "Shame on this poor weakness!" But, for all her strife, she could as soon have crushed away the life from a sick dove. At length, to break the pause, she said with trembling chance, "Is this the cause? This all? Yet it is strange and sad, alas, that one who through this middle earth should pass most like a sojourning demigod and leave his name upon the harp-string, should achieve no higher bard than simple maidenhood, singing alone and fearfully, how the blood left his young cheek, and how he used to stray he knew not where, and how he used to say, nay, if any 'twas love, and yet 'twas love. If any said 'twas love, and yet 'twas love, what could it be but love? How a ring dove let fall a spring of yew tree in his path, and how he died, and then that love doth scathe. The gentle heart as northern blasts do roses, and then the ballad of his sad life closes with sighs and an alas. Endymion, be rather in the trumpet's mouth anon, among the winds at large, that all hearken, although before the crystal hearkens Oh my God. Although before the crystal heavens darken, I watch and dote upon the silver lakes, pictured in western cloudiness that takes the semblance of gold rocks and bright gold sands, islands and creeks and amber fretted strands with horses prancing o'er them, palaces and towers of amethyst. Would I so tease my pleasant days because I could not mount into those regions? The Morphean founts of that fine element that visions, dreams, and fitful whims of sleep are made of, streams into its airy channels with so subtle, so thin a breathing, not the spider's shuttle, circles a million times within the space of a swallow's nest door, could delay a trace, a tinting of its quality. How light must dreams themselves be, seeing they're more slight than the mere nothing that engenders them. When then wherefore sully the encrusted gem of high and noble life with thoughts so sick? Why pierce high-fronted honor to the quick for nothing but a dream? Hereat the youth looked up. A conflicting of shame and ruth was in his plated brow, yet his eyelids widened a little, as when zephyr bids a little breathe to creep beneath between the fans of careless butterflies. Amid his pains, he seemed to taste a drop of manna dew, full palatable, and a color grew upon his face, upon his cheek, while thus he lifeful spake. Peona, ever have I longed to slake my thirst for the world's praises. Nothing base, No merely slumberous phantasm. No merely slumberous phantasm could unlace the stubborn canvas for my journey, for my voyage prepared. Though now 'tis tattered, leaving my bark bared, and suddenly drifting. Yet my higher hope is of too wide, too rainbow large a scope to fret in myriads of earthly wrecks. Wherein lies happiness? In that which becks our ready minds to fellowship divine, a fellowship with essence, till we shine full alchemized and free of space. Behold the clear religion of heaven. Fold a rose leaf round thy fingers' taperness, and soothe thy lips. Hissed when the airy stress of music's kiss impregnates the free winds, and a sympathetic touch unbinds aeolian magic from the lucid wombs. Then old strings, then old songs waken from enclouded tombs. Old ditties sigh above their father's grave. Ghosts of melodious prophesyings rave round every spot where trod Apollo's foot. Bronze clarion. Oh my God! Bronze clarions awake and faintly bruit where long ago a giant battle was. And from the turf a lullaby doth pass into every place where infant Orpheus slept. Feel we these things, that moment we have stepped into a sort of oneness, and our state is like a floating spirit's. But there are richer entanglements, enthrallments far more self-destroying, leading by degrees to the chief intensity. The crown of these is made of love and friendship, and sits high upon the forehead of humanity. All its more ponderous and bulky worth is friendship, whence there ever issues forth a steady splendor, but at the tip top there hangs by unseen film an orbed drop of light, and that is love. Its influence thrown in our eyes genders a novel sense, at which we start and fret, till in the end, meeting in its radiance, we blend, mingle, and so become a part of it. Nor with the aught else can our souls interknit so wingedly. When we combine therewith, life's self is nourished by its proffer plith, and we are nurtured like a pelican brood. Aye, so delicious is the unsating food that men who might have towered in the van of all the congregated world to fan and winnow from the coming step of time and chaff of custom, wipe away all slime left by men's slugs and human serpentry, have been content to let occasion die, whilst they did sleep in love's Elysium. And, truly, I would rather be struck dumb than speak against this ardent listlessness, for I have ever thought that it might bless the world with benefits unknowingly, as does the nightingale, up perched high and cloistered among cool and bunched leaves. She sings but to her love, not ere conceives how tiptoe night holds back her dark gray hood. Just so may love, although 'tis understood the mere commingling of passionate breath, produce more than our searching witnesseth. What I know not, but who of men can tell that flowers would bloom, or that green fruit would swell to melting pulp, the fish would have bright mail, the earth its dower of river, wood, and vale, the mellows runnels pebble stones, the seed its harvest, or the lute its tones ravishment, or ravishment its sweet, if human souls never did kiss and greet. Now, if this earthly love has power to make men's being mortal immortal, to shake ambition from their memories, and brim their measure of content, what merest whim seems all this poor endeavor after fame to one who keeps within his steadfast aim a love immortal, and immortal too? Look not so wildered, for these things are true, and never can be born of atomies that buzz about our slumbers, like brain flies, leaving us fancy sick. No, no, I'm sure, may restless spirit never could endure to bring so long upon one luxury, unless it did, though fearfully, espy a hope beyond the shadow of a dream. My sayings will the less obscured seem when I have told thee how my waking sight has made me scruple whether the same night was passed in dreaming. Hearken, sweet Peona, Beyond the matron temple of Latona, which we would see but for these darkening boughs, lies a deep hollow, from whose ragged brows bushes and trees do lean all round athwart, and meet so nearly that with wings outtrot and spreaded tail, a vulture could not glide past them. But he must brush on every side. Some mouldered steps lead into this cool cell, for as the slabbed margin of a well, whose patient level peeps its crystal eye, right upward through the bushes to the sky, oft I had brought thee flowers, on their stalks set like vestal primroses, but dark velvet edges them round, and they have golden pits. 'Twas there I got them, from the gaps and slits in a mossy stone that sometimes was my seat, when above all was faint with midday heat. And there in strife no burning thoughts to heed, I'd bubble up the water through a reed. So reaching back to boyhood, and make me ships of molted feathers, touchwood, alder trips, with leaves stuck in them, in the Neptune be of their petty ocean. Oftener, heavily, when lovelorn hours had left me less a child, I sat contemplating the figures wild of o'erhead's clouds meeting the mirror through. Upon a day, while thus I watched, by flew a cloudy Cupid, with his bow and quiver, so plainly charactered, no breeze would shiver the happy chance. So happy I was fain to follow it upon the open plain, and therefore was just going, when, behold, I wonder, fair as any I have told, the same bright face I tasted in my sleep, smiling in the clear well. My heart did leap through the cool depth, it moved as if to flee. I started up when lo, refreshfully, there came upon my face in plenteous showers, dewdrops and dewy buds, and leaves and flowers, wrapping all objects from my smothered sight, bathing my spirit in a new delight. I, such a breathless honey feel of bliss, alone preserved me from the drear abyss of death, from the fair form had gone again. Pleasure is oft a visitant, but pain clings cruelly to us, like the gnawing sloth of the deer's tender haunches, late in loth. 'Tis scarred away by slow returning pleasure. How sickening, how dark, the dreadful leisure of weary days, made deeper exquisite by a foreknowing of unslumberous night. Like sorrow came upon me, heavier still, than when I wandered from the poppy hill, and a whole age of lingering moments crept sluggishly by, ere more contentment swept away at once the deli yellow spleen. Yes, thrice have I this fair enchantment seen. Once more have been tortured with renewed life, when last the wintry gust gave over strife with the conquering sun of spring, and left the skies warm and serene. But yet with moistened eyes and pity of the shadowed infant buds, that time thou didst adorn with amber studs my hunting cap, because I laughed and smiled, chatted with thee, and many days exiled all torment from my breast. 'Twas even then, straying about, yet cooped up in the den of helpless discontent, hurling my lance from place to place and following it chance. At last, by hap, through some young trees it struck, and, plashing among bedded pebbles, struck in the middle of a brook, whose silver rambled down 20 little falls. Through reeds and bramble tracing along, it brought me to a cave, whence it ran brightly forth, and in white did lave the nether sides of mossy stones and rock, 'mong which it gurgled blithe adieus to mock its own sweet grief at parting. Overhead hung a lush scene of drooping weeds, and spread thick as to curtain up some wood nymph's home. Ah, impious mortal, whither do I roam? Said I, low voiced. Ah, whither? 'Tis the growth of Persephone. Oh, Proserpine, when hell, obscure and hot, doth her resign, and where her tender hand she dabbles, on the cool and sluicy sands, or 'tis a cell of echo, where she sits and babbles through silence, till her wits are gone in tender madness, and anon faints into sleep with many a dying tone of sadness. Oh, that she would take my vows and breathe them sighingly among the boughs, and sue her gentle ears for whose fair head daily I pluck sweet flowrets from their bed, and weave them dryingly, send honey whispers round every leaf, that all those gentle lispers may sigh my love upon her. Oh my God, may sigh my love unto her pitying. O charitable echo, hear and sing this ditty to her. Tell her. So I stayed my foolish tongue, and listening, half afraid, stood stupefied with my own empty folly, and blushing for the freaks of melancholy. Salt tears were coming when I heard my name most fondly lipped, and then these accents came. Endymion, the cave is secreter than the Isle of Delos. Echo hence shall stir no sighs but sigh-warm kisses, or light noise of thy combing hand, the while it travelling cloys and trembles through my labyrinthine hair. At that oppressed I hurried in. Ah, where are those swift moments? Whither are they fled? I'll smile no more, Peona, nor will wed sorrow the way to death, but patiently bear up against it. So farewell, sad sigh, and come instead demurest meditation, to occupy me wholly, and to fashion my pilgrimage for the world's dusky brink. No more will I count over, link by link, my chain of grief. No longer strive to find a half forgetfulness in mountain winds, blustering about my eyes. I, thou shalt see, dearest of sisters, what my life shall be, what a calm round of hours shall make my days. There is a palmy flame of hope that plays where'er I look, but yet I'll say 'tis not, and here I bid it die. Have not I caught already a more healthy countenance? By this sun is setting, we may chance meet some of our near dwellers with my car. This said, he rose, faint smiling like a star, through autumn mists, and took Peona's hand. They stepped into the boat and launched from land. Oh my God. Okay, we're only reading part one. Oh, oh, that was a lot. Oh, I wore my voice out. Ah. Um, the void, yes. Perhaps so. Perhaps so. Oh my God. Who? Well, oh, I think that's it, probably. I'm tired and I got to the end of this section. Okay, goodbye. Nope. Oh my God, I lost my mouse. Where did it go?